Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Do you ever wonder when Spider-Man goes to the bathroom if the toilet paper sticks to his fingers?
You ever wonder why Superman wears his underwear outside of his pants?
My name is Imran.
My name is Anthony.
He's the Jock!
And he's the Nerd.
And we're your hosts for the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we sometimes try to attempt to answer these questions.
This is a full spoiler podcast, and we swear a lot.
Check it out for awesome geek news, interviews, and comic book reviews. Visit jockandnerd.com. We are your superhero TV, movies, and comic book culture curators.
Boom.
Jockandnerd.com. Jock and Nerd!
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to The Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Brian. Hey, Brian.
Howdy.
And Hanno unfortunately couldn't join us, but I'm sure he's busily preparing for his wonderful trip he's going to be going on shortly. So good luck with all of that fun, and we will see you soon, Hanno.
Yep. He just loves leading the show. That's all it is. He just takes all these days off so that he can just, go first when he comes back. It's like on the late night TV shows, you want to be the first guest. So
it's got to be about Hanno.
Yeah.
Yep, you know it.
Yep. Which I didn't realize. I never realized that on like the late night TV shows, that going first is the prime seat. I just never paid attention to it.
That makes sense, because if you think about it, that's when you're going to have the largest core of the audience.
Yeah, because as it goes on, people are going to be going to bed, so yeah.
Fall asleep.
Yeah. Also, why generally the comedian is towards the end of the show, or the music act, or whatever. So I guess so. Yeah. I was reading an article in Sports Illustrated about former baseball player Alex Rodriguez, about how basically the whole time he played baseball, he was just seen as just a jerk and just all this and insincere and all this stuff. But now his approval rating essentially is like crazy. Like, people love him now. And he's been working with a PR person. Plus, he said that, like, getting with J-Lo, because they're engaged, like, that she's made a huge difference in how, you know, bringing out the real him kind of a thing. But he was talking with his agent about how he was going on. I think it was Fallon. And he was like, am I on first or second? And his publicist was basically like, oh, we don't go second anymore. You know, so, you know, part of the, like, no, you're an A-level person, so you go first seat, you don't go second seat. So, and I was like, I never thought about that. I guess it makes sense though, like you said, you know, you just watch TV shows, you don't pay attention to it. Stuff like that. So, because it's so weird, because usually you want to be the closer, not the opener, you know? But, yeah.
Not when it comes to TV.
I guess, you know, like in wrestling, you want to be the closer, but if you're not the closer, you want to be the opener, because you set the mood, basically.
Yeah.
You know? But you always want to be the closer, because usually the closers make the money. Same with comedy and all that stuff, you know, music. You know, you always want to be the headliner, not the opener, you know, so.
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of funny, though, on those shows, it does work the other way. And like you said, I'm sure it's just time restraints, because can you imagine if you went to a concert and the headliner was first? Everybody just would leave, you know, like there's no reason to stick around, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that would stink.
Well, why don't you start us off, since we don't have Heno to start us off this week?
Yeah.
How week, Brian?
It's been alright. It's been pretty, just the way my weeks have been, just, you know, mostly boring. I really haven't done much of anything. So, you know, been still making progress on the stuff that I've wanted to make progress on, and, it was weird. I had, middle of last week, I think it was, I got a call from the school that I last attended, and basically they were like, hey, you know, you haven't finished your degree, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when's the last time I went there? You know?
Okay. Years, yeah.
Right? It's been, what, like 5, 6, 7 years? It's been a while.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, you know, but you know, for a quick moment, it kind of passed through my mind again, you know, the idea of it. And I was just like, it's so hard to justify, because just the amount of money for the potential return on the investment, you know, it's so not good. Because it's art related, you know, and it's like, unless you get really lucky, you know, like, even if I finish up graphic design and get that, it's like, you know, across the board, graphic design doesn't pay a ton of money, you know, unless you get, you know, unless you're a hot freelancer or you get lucky, you know. So, yeah, I mean, what it did do, though, a little bit was it kind of scratched that itch a little bit again to, get me looking around online for, like, where I could refresh, like Photoshop and, InDesign and stuff like that, just to, cause I really don't remember most of what I learned about those programs. Because I haven't used it, you know, and, plus, you know, when I was in school, those programs were still new-ish, you know, they weren't new, but they were new-ish. And, so now, you know, it's amazing to me how many people, average people, know how to use these programs that before only graphic design students knew how to use, basically, and, but on the upside to that, there's tons of tutorials and all that kind of stuff out there for a lot of it. The only thing is, what I would like is to find kind of a cross section a little bit. And I've seen there's some schools, like I think the one actually right up the street here, I think has like a certificate program where you can learn like, okay, this is a Photoshop program, and I kind of thought about maybe looking into those, because I kind of want the setting of somebody giving me assignments so that I directly apply it to something.
That makes sense.
Because then once I'm done with that, I can go, okay, now I can apply it to other things, but, like learn the techniques, then I can go find things to apply the techniques to, because that's how most of my art education was, here's how to this, here's how to that. Okay, now go do whatever it is you're going to do with these things,
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, well, it's like, okay, well, here's how to, use the different tools in Photoshop. It's like, okay, but I don't know. I think for me, the way I learn it helps if it's like, here is you applying this to something. And then from there, again, like we talked on here about visualizing something. So once I've done it once, I can then, when something else comes up, be like, oh yeah, I did that with this, Because I still find myself doing that from time to time when I do remember how to do something with Photoshop or whatever. It'll be like, oh yeah, I did that a long time ago, blah, and then the stuff kind of clicks in my head how to do it, Like when I was uploading the design for a Salty Language t-shirt to a site, you have to do a transparency for the background. And I'm sitting here going, I know how to do this. I know I learned how to do this, and it is so not hard, but it took me a few minutes, and then it kind of popped back into my head how to do it, and it was funny because it's something stupid basic, but I was, kind of proud of myself for remembering how to do it.
Right?
Even though I probably could have done it faster by just typing in Google, like, how to make a background transparent.
All about the little victories.
Yeah. But it's also helped. I've been following this one graphic designer that I heard on some podcast named Aaron. I can't remember how to say his last name. I don't know if it's Draplin or Draplin. But he's actually from not too far from here. I think he's from like around the Grand Rapids area or something.
Oh,
yeah, he's from not too far away. And he's become basically like a rock star in the graphic design world. And I've been looking at his stuff and also noticing, like, as he's traveling around doing talks and stuff, that he's going into like thrift stores and different stuff, and he uploads on his Instagram when he finds examples of design that he likes. So if he's somewhere and sees a little logo that he likes, he uploads the picture of it and stuff like that. And it reminds me of the stuff when I was younger that was like the stuff that I don't do anymore because I don't know why my mindset just doesn't do that like it did then. I was always looking for inspiration, and I don't anymore. And I was like, I'm going to try to focus back on that. And, when I'm out, if I see something that I like design-wise, maybe I'll upload it to my Instagram. It's kind of just a reminder thing for that kind of thing. Just to, hey, for some reason this either was an inspiration or I just thought it was cool design,
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that kind of thing jumped in my head as it does from time to time because I just wish I could tear down whatever wall it is in front of me that's keeping me from doing art, I just wish I could figure out what the heck it is. It just won't let me do it. So, I mean, I know what it is. It's just anxiety, but I haven't figured out how to tear that wall down. So, which actually reminds me of something else, which was, I haven't been in therapy in a long time now because my therapist, moved up the chain, so wasn't available and whatever. And it's like, I was thinking earlier today, actually, that I might call and try to make an appointment with a new therapist, because I just, overall, I think I've done really well without it, you know? Because I think I got enough tools from when I was in it before that I've really applied a lot of them to keep a lot of stuff away. But then stuff like this with the art pops back in my head and going, you still got a lot of work to do. You know, like, again, there's some reason I can't tear down this wall of anxiety around art. And I've beat my head against that wall for a long, long, long time. You know, so it's like, well, maybe this is where I need somebody to, you know, hand me the right tool instead of my head to try to get through the wall, you know?
Sure.
But yeah, so, I think I might try that. But other than that, I've been, you know, it's been whatever. I've, officially gone off the one medicine that I've been weaning down on, and felt no different. So that makes me believe that essentially what it gave me, that the testosterone, I think, is giving me also. So I think I'm without it. I've been without it for a week now and felt zero, like any withdrawal that I can think of. My energy level's been the same. So it's, you know, there hasn't been a big drop off there. So everything's gone as well as possible there. So that's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about been my week. I can't think of anything else.
Awesome. Well, my week has been pretty stable and pretty much the same as it has been. So things are going real nice and smooth, thankfully. Something that I was talking with a friend on, because you mentioned school, kind of brought this back. They asked me what my second choice would have been in school. I'm going for my degree, because I got a business degree, and they're like, what would your second choice be? And I said, honestly, teaching.
Yeah.
And they said, well, why don't you, because we were talking about, as much as I'm very happy with my job, it's pretty, standard and can be kind of boring at times. And you just kind of go in, you do your job, everything's nice and kosher, then you get to go home. And so there's nothing, I'm not super passionate about anything. It's just a nice, solid, good job.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, right.
But they're like, why don't you go for something you can be passionate about, like teaching? And I said, well, good question. Because, yes, there are ways, because I do have my bachelor's, so I wouldn't have to go back to get another bachelor's. I could actually get a teaching certificate.
Right.
So just go and get my teaching certificate. The problem, though, is I've been in the work world for 20-some years. So that being said, my income has grown with my career.
Right.
And the starting compensation for a new teacher wouldn't quite be the same as where I'm at now.
Right.
So not only would I have to spend money and time to get the certificate, the end result, I would be making less than what I'm making now, albeit in a more job that hopefully would be more passion driven and more of an exciting career.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, I think. I don't think that that's a realistic option for me at this point in my life.
You just teach night classes.
But it was a fun thing to kind of look into, a fun idea to toss around and kind of play with.
That is an interesting idea, because when you mentioned that, I was kind of like, okay, well, if I didn't go for, let's say an art degree of any kind, because otherwise I could go, well, I went for graphic design, so I just switched to illustration or photography or whatever else in there. Yeah, if I didn't go for art of any kind, I think mine would have probably just been like business. I might have gone into like economics.
Yeah.
now, if you asked me, it'd be a different story. But at the time, it probably would have been either like just a business management kind of situation or economics. Now it would be like if I were coming out of high school, I would probably go to school for like behavioral sciences because of, you know, how so much of that stuff, like the, you know, listening to what makes people tick and stuff like that, like those kind of things just fascinate me endlessly. So I would probably want to go into that kind of field. But at age 40, I am not looking to put in that kind of work to get the degree plus the gigantic, you know, amount of money I'd owe at the end of it. So
yeah, there's always that.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea to toy around with for sure.
Yeah.
Because my husband's actually finishing up a degree right now himself.
Right.
And he's in his last class, which is a math class. It's advanced algebra.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all right.
That's
well,
a kick in the butt.
and
Yeah.
He's really good at math.
Yeah.
But when it comes to focusing and sitting down and just kind of hammering things out, it's not his forte. The whole focus thing is not his forte. And when you're dealing with math, it makes it a little bit even harder to kind of focus it in. So I've been assisting in helping him focus.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see how much has come back to me as far as the answers. And when I see stuff on the page, I'm like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure there was no way I was going to be able to do that. But sure enough, it's popped back in my head.
Yeah.
So I'm like, huh.
I've had that
Good to
happen
know.
a few times with algebra type stuff where I'll see somebody post something online or whatever, and, you know, it's interesting to me how quickly the stuff jumps back into my head. I mean, nothing complex, of course, you know, like if I had to sit down and write down equations and stuff that, you know, like, oh, what's the formula for this? I don't know. You know, like I don't have a clue, you know, but I can still sit down and do, you know, varieties of things that, you know, from algebra classes that I was in or whatever. So it is kind of interesting when you can do that, even though that they very rarely pop up on you.
This is true.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most that you'll see, I'll see using the algebra is when I'm trying to calculate a discount at a clothing store or a shoe store.
Yeah.
There's 50% off. I'll use calculations, and sometimes we'll use algebraic, you know, formulas to kind of figure that. It's not intentional.
Yeah.
Like you don't really realize you're doing it until you like break it down and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I was using algebra for that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why it's one of those things where people talk, well, you know, like I took algebra and I never used it. It's like, you know, like walk through your days with some like math teachers. They probably would be constantly pointing out to you where you do use things that you just don't realize you're doing, you know, but you know, whatever. I mean, I understand it, you know, cause there is a level of math where you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I will not use this. And you're right, you know, like, but
yeah, I mean, calculus and
trig and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you're going into a field that demands that, you're probably just taking that because you want to, or you're whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. There's like some questions, like this is deemed to be a mathematical fact. Why can we take this at face value?
Okay.
And he had to explain that whole thing. And that was, yeah, I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So try to figure all that out and try to explain it in layman's terms why something is a fact. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy at all.
And I'm sure designed that way too, you know, like obviously, it's like I saw, one of our friends on Facebook yesterday or the day before posted, there was a thing from like Oprah magazine where it showed a math problem, and it's like, you know, what's the answer? And people have been arguing about it. And when I looked at it and I'm like, well, the answer could be one of two things. Like the answer I get is, you know, one thing, but I also understand how people arrived at this other answer, which is not usually the case in math. Usually
There's one answer.
there's one answer. And when I went and read the article, the reason that this happens is because the way that the question's written is it's written ambiguously. And a couple of the math nerds that they consult on there are basically like, yeah, nobody would write it that way. Like, you know, like immediately we're like, yeah, no, that's not up to standard kind of a thing. Because what it ends up coming down to is order of operations. And what a lot of people don't realize because of how we're taught order of operations, like, was it called that PEMDAS or whatever it is? You know, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. But what they don't realize is that multiplication and division have equal priority. It isn't multiplication then division, but when you read the thing PEMDAS, you go, well, multiplication, division, and it's like, that's just how it's done in there when it really shouldn't be done that way. So this problem that they show, you know, basically what happens is once you do your parentheses, there's a division and a multiplication that you have to do. And then it just becomes basically how the person doing it prioritizes. If you go, well, PEMDAS, then you do multiplication first. But the way that I would have done it is you go left to right. Because you go, well, multiplication and division have equal footing. So then, well, since they're equal, you then go to standard problem solving, which is left to right. And then you get this answer. So, like, the one math guy was like, he's like, yeah, he goes, this is the answer I would get. He's like, but if people put the other answer, he's like, I wouldn't be mad at him. And, right. Okay, you never hear that in math problems. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's one answer.
Yeah, there's always one answer unless you're dealing with variables.
Right.
And
yeah,
there's
and
multiple.
That's why it's like, the guy even said in there, he's like, the flaw with this is he's like, it's written, like, I love, there's somebody who consulted like a statistics friend of theirs or something that was basically like, yeah, this is written by some, I'll use a different term, jerk on the internet just to get people to argue. That's why it was written that way. And it was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it was funny because I immediately, like, my thing was I remembered that multiplication and division are on equal footing, not one then the other. And most people are not taught that. You know, you're taught, like I said, PEMDAS, you know, PEM, you know, you do it in that order, and that's not, you know, it works for high school math, but in the, like, from what I've understood from the higher ones, and I asked a couple of people that I know that are math nerds, like, that work in math related fields, and they both were like, yeah, that's because of this. And I was like, that's what I thought. So, you know, but it was one of those, like we were saying, it's like, it felt kind of interesting when it was like, oh yeah, you know, and have people, you know, going, yeah, that's right. But, you know, like I said, just the way this is written was by some jerk.
But yeah, math it is very interesting.
Yeah.
Got a few weeks left of that, and that's it. That'll be the last class. So
Nice.
he has to decide at that point if he wants to continue on or if he's happy with where he's at. So
Yeah,
we'll
cool.
see how that works.
Well,
but
good. Yeah.
yeah, so that's going on.
Now, out of curiosity, did he put off the math class till the end, or is that just how it fell?
No, absolutely put it off.
I was just curious. It's always interesting to me when people get near the end of their degrees, like what classes they just keep pushing. And I know also sometimes, like, you know, when you're actually attending schools and whatever, you know, certain classes aren't taught this semester. They're only taught this semester, you know, or they're day classes this semester, night next time. So you have to wait until it falls into your availability, you know.
No, this case, yeah, he was holding off on taking the math class, and finally it's the last one, so he had to take it.
That makes sense. I understand. Like when I was in school, I put off like the resume writing class until like almost the final quarter of, you know, my last year in school there. So
Nice.
yeah. Well, it was tough because I'm in for graphic design, and I got to go into a resume class where basically they're teaching me to create boring resumes, Meanwhile, my whole degree is about making boring pages interesting. You know, like that kind of a thing. So it's a weird situation to be in because you're supposed to turn in these boring resumes. And I'm like, if I turn that into a graphic designer, I'm not getting the job.
Yeah.
If I can't design a resume to at least look remotely interesting, they're not going to give me a chance at anything else. You know?
It's true.
It was a really weird situation. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, everything else has been going well. We had an impromptu barbecue on Saturday with my in-laws and my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and her husband.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird weekend because I've had a lot of things going on, but yet a lot of time to myself.
Yeah.
And I've actually been getting bored, so it's just weird.
Yeah.
Because when I look back, I'm like, well, I had plenty of things to fill the day, so I'm not really sure why I got bored, but it kind of happened, so I'm like, okay. So I'm kind of glad to be going back to work tomorrow. We're recording on Monday, folks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to kind of going back to work and getting back into the grind. And then on Saturday, I leave for Florida. Yay!
Yay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great timing. Good thing it's not this week, huh? Yeah.
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 I mean, thankfully, I leave on Saturday. It's coming up the coast. It's not coming up the Gulf. I'm going to the Gulf side.
Yeah.
So
in the
yes,
event someone's listening to this way in the future, there's a hurricane right off the coast of Florida named Dorian.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Dorian's bearing down.
Mm.
Still hopes that it goes back out to sea. But, you know, there's always chance for it to turn. We're hoping. But as of right now, it just looks like strong storms will be hitting the area that I'm going to. But the hurricane won't make it all the way over there.
Oh, good. I hope not. I mean, I don't want it to land anywhere, you know, but yeah.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we do have plans to go to Orlando, which is in the kind of the path.
Right.
It's in the middle of the state, so the hurricane should, if it does happen to go that direction, it should have downgraded enough by that point that it won't be
hopefully
as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, by the time it gets to Orlando, but we'll see. We'll have to see how things all play out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least, you know, at least your plans on going there aren't only to go to like Disney World or something, you know, with you're going to visit your parents. So it's, you know, at least if you can't go to Orlando, it's like, well, I guess we'll just do whatever instead, you know, nice. And it, you know, it's not ruining the whole vacation basically or something. So.
Right.
And I also understand, for anyone listening, I understand that I'm talking about ruining a vacation when people can literally lose their lives and homes. I understand the levity of everything, but, you know.
Yeah. We're talking, you know, first world problems here.
It really is, yeah. Oh no, I can't go to Disney because a massive hurricane crushed the coast, yeah. Yeah.
Darn shucks. Yeah. No, I mean, we completely, our thoughts are, of course, with the people, and hopefully, you know, everything's okay and nobody gets hurt and all that good stuff. But,
yeah, let's hope. But, yeah, well, that's good with, I was thinking of that the other day. I was like, I know where Heno's going is not in the path of the hurricane, but it's still, you know, there's still, travel considerations that if he were going this week would have had to have been redone and all this and stuff.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I'm glad, you know, neither of you are heading that way right now, but, like I said, hopefully the thing just decides, you know, land's not that great and just turns him right back out to the ocean and goes away.
That would be the best case scenario that we're hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not likely, but that's what we all hope for.
Yes, exactly.
How about you just go away? Nobody wants you. Go away.
Shoo. Go on.
Yeah. Just get everybody outside with brooms and go and get.
Get.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we start on the next segment of the show, I just need to take a short break.
Nope.
Because I need to go grab a glass of water.
Okay.
And I'm back with some yummy Kool-Aid. All right, so let's go on to our next segment, which is our article of the day. I believe, Brian, you have the article.
Nope. No.
Nope.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I do. I saw this earlier today on tinybuddha.com. And it's called Why Positive Thinking Drained Me and How I've Found Peace. And it's by, I don't know how to say her name, Jen Pizzici? I don't know. Picicci. The link for the thing will be in the show notes, so you can go check it out yourself if you want to. And, you know, we usually have like talking points. This one's more of like a whole thing, so I'm just going to read this short article and then we can jump in, however. But it says, 11 years ago, I read a book that was life-changing for me. It taught me something I never considered during the previous 29 years, that I could change my thoughts. The book was Loving What Is by Byron Katie. It set me forth on a journey that includes dozens of books that communicated the same thing. We think the same thoughts all day long, over and over, and many of them are negative, filled with worry and not at all helpful. And when we have the power to change those, we have the power to change those thoughts. I've lived by the belief ever since that I have the power to change my thoughts and that reframing negative thoughts to better ones makes my life happier. This year, though, I hit a wall. Although my life and confidence and sense of self have improved tremendously in the past decade, some things were still not as I wished them to be. I felt unhappy much more often than I would have liked. I felt a low-level anxiety on and off most days. I worried about money frequently. I just didn't feel the way I wanted to feel. I kept reading more books. I kept trying to find a way to be consistently positive. I remember one weekend when I was feeling down, I just repeated positive phrases to myself over and over all day long, but felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. In fact, it was the very next day that I hit a breaking point. My mind was tired from trying so hard to be positive all the time. I was struggling to keep it together and stay upbeat. That morning I took my daughter to her swimming lesson, the first after a week-long break, and things started to unravel. I wasn't sitting where she expected me to be. She got upset, and after she found me, she clung to me. She wouldn't get back in the water. She wouldn't do what I wanted. I got frustrated. I got angry. In fact, when I looked back over the previous weeks, I saw I'd been getting angry a lot lately. It was as if the harder I pushed myself to be positive, the more resentful I got about what I didn't have. Eventually, I calmed down. I brought my daughter home, but still felt tied up in knots. I expressed anger to my husband. I cried. I felt out of control. By the next day, the fog had lifted. I knew I couldn't keep going on like I'd been. I knew forcing myself to be positive all the time was not the answer. It was not, and was completely unsustainable for the long term. That's when I picked up my copy of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Tolle is the last name. I've had this book on my shelf for probably that entire 11 years. I was trying to change my thoughts, but never read it. I guess I just wasn't ready for it. Tolle tells the reader that he knows what he knows to be the truth. What's happening in this moment is the only thing that's ever real, and the only thing that ever matters. The mind wants us to worry about the future and ruminate about the past, but that is what keeps us disconnected and separate from inner peace. I finally felt deeply what I'd been missing all those years. That for me, to feel completely free, I didn't need to keep trying to think positively. I needed to stop attaching to my thoughts at all. This has been such an enormous shift for me that it's hard for me to put it into words. I spent so much time, so much energy trying to reframe thoughts, to question if they were true, to choose thoughts that felt better, and now I feel free from that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with reframing your thoughts. Nothing at all. It did improve my life. And it will improve yours if you're used to believing everything your thoughts tell you. But for me at least, it's no longer the way to a better life. Noticing my thoughts and just letting them go by brings me greater inner peace than I've ever felt. Here's what I'm doing differently now that I've had this realization. I'm no longer setting specific goals. I'm a bit start and stop on setting goals anyway, but for now I've just stopped setting them completely. That doesn't mean I don't want to get things done. It just means I'm not putting a lot of energy into letting my mind come up with a big list of things it should be doing. None of that really means anything. Yes, making more money or being more successful in my work might mean more travel or newer shoes, but that does not lead to sustained peace. Being right here, observing what's happening in this moment, is what leads to sustained peace. I'm not trying to think positively. This is a big change and a positive one for me. Oh, the irony. Trying to think positively all the time was truly energy draining for me. This non-attachment to thought, though, is peaceful. It's not easy, it does take some effort, but I don't feel like I'm trying to push an elephant through a keyhole with my mind anymore. Having glimpses of being truly present is fun and joyful. I'm coming back to the present moment over and over and over again. I've been saying be here now and be mindful for years now, but I'm not sure I really truly got what that meant. What it means to me now is this. Breathe in and notice what it feels like. Notice what the inside of your body feels like. Look around you, but don't make judgments about what you see. When thoughts start to fill in the empty spaces, stop them. Refocus on what's happening in this exact moment. I'm noticing when my mind is racing. In the past, I'd probably try to think happier thoughts. If my head was full of thoughts about how much I had to get done, I'd try to soothe myself with, I have time to do what's most important, or something similar. Now when I notice my mind is racing, I see it as a reminder to get back to the present moment. If my mind is running away with thoughts, then I'm most definitely not in the here and now. I breathe, I look around, I see that my mind doesn't want to stop thinking. It's afraid to lose its job. No matter what you choose, if you want to live a more peaceful life, you're going to have to make a change. You may choose to observe your thoughts and then switch them to ones that feel better. Or, like I've done recently, you may choose to go beyond your thoughts to the moment that's unfolding right now. To stop letting your thoughts, good or bad, have any power over your life. And that's the whole...
Interesting.
You know, the part that really jumped out at me was this, the part about, like, breathing and coming back into what's going on, because I think was it last week or the week before, I was talking about doing the Waking Up app with Sam Harris where you meditate, and that's basically what he's teaching in that app, is how to quit being distracted by your thoughts and just be, you know, kind of a thing. And that's really kind of what that's focusing around early in the lessons. So when I heard this, I think it's really interesting though, because I don't know that I feel like this is next level in that I think when you're all negative, you have to focus on trying to be more positive. Once you've hit a certain point with that, I think, much like working out, you know, like when you're doing whatever, if you do the same thing without changing weights or reps or mixing up the things, eventually your body hits that plateau because you're doing the same thing every time. Your body starts to kind of predict it, you know? And I think the same thing happens here. If all you're doing is forcing yourself to think positive thoughts, that gets just as tiring as your body just thinking negative all the time, you know? And I think just that gripping onto a thought, whether it's positive or negative, is, you know, like she says, it's just draining. So when you can finally start letting go of these things, that's when you start really probably finding peace and whatever. As I was reading this, I was like, you know, this is actually, I think, kind of where I've been lately too, is even though I've tried to reframe and all this kind of stuff, I kind of feel like I'm hitting almost like I'm just going through the motions, you know?
Well, it is very interesting when you stop and you think about giving up the power of the thoughts and focusing on the here and now in the moment. Something that I learned from actually a sleeping tape that my mother got me when I was back in high school. Mm-hmm. One of the things it mentioned was take a look at the back of your eyelids. When your mind is racing and you're trying to sleep, as you lay there and you close your eyes, your what naturally happens is your eyes will roll back. And that's a natural state. That's just what happens to all of us. if you look at the back of your eyelids, you're forcing your eyes to be in a position that's not comfortable. It's not the relaxed position your eyes are normally in.
Mhm.
So it causes you to kind of focus on the now. Like your brain can't handle racing thoughts and doing this. So if you're focused on the here and the now and the moment, then it will help. It takes the feelings, the emotions out of the racing thoughts and puts everything in the right perspective.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of it's about perspective. And I agree with you that if someone who's living a very negative, thoughtful life, I definitely believe in the power of positive thought. That needs to be the first step.
Yeah.
Is going with the positive thought.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't think you can go from being like I'm thinking of me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. Or, well, longer. Yeah, whatever. Longer than that ago, whatever. But whenever it was, when I first started shifting my thinking, it was like if with me being negative all the time, I can't imagine just trying to immediately go to letting go.
Right.
I just don't think that you're really, I don't know how to word it. You're not ready for that, I think. I think you have to realize you have to get in a more positive mindset so that then you can start letting things go, because then you can because when you're all negative, any positive thought you have, you want to hang on to it, because it's positive, like like type of thing. Either that or you chase it away really quick. And I think now, especially negative ones, like now I could much easier let go of negative thoughts. And if it's a positive thought, you can realize if it's one that you want to hang on to or if it's one that's kind of a fleeting type thing, So I really think you have to go through that other process first. Like I said, I feel like it's next level stuff,
Right. It is. It's got to be go of some of the emotions. I've done a lot of that work unintentionally, because I am a highly emotional person, and just from the meds and from just life experiences, I've learned to put some distance between me and my thoughts, and kind of help control the emotions that are around those thoughts, and kind of keep them as to what they are, which is just a thought. And also recognize the fact that those thoughts aren't always realistic and valid and all that good jazz.
Right.
So thoughts are just thoughts. What makes the difference is how you react upon them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what
she's
she's getting at. Yeah, she's kind of getting at that in here, I think, too, is that, thoughts are just thoughts. They're not, like almost like they don't know whether they're good or bad. They don't deserve a lot of weight,
Right.
Because again, it's like thoughts are fleeting. That really is kind of a thing. If you can just kind of let them float by like they're all balloons, still look at them, read them, recognize what's going on with them, but then just keep letting them float. Like just okay, and. That's, I think, that's very much what it is. It is really hard to be in the now, but I've noticed that the times where I'm finding it, that I'm in the now more and more, all come back to things where I can implement meditation practices almost into while you're experiencing something. Meaning the letting go, focusing on your breathing, like how do you feel, like the grounding techniques almost type stuff, how does this feel, how does whatever, because it's forcing your body to describe, or your brain to describe things right now. Like there is no past, there is no present, like you were saying, when you're trying to focus on the backs of your eyelids or whatever it is, so I think those are, some really, really strong, tips there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was a good episode. I know it's kind of running a little on the shorter side, but
Yeah.
I think we're good. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm fine. Too. I have 2 quick things I want to mention before we get into the end stuff. One was, you're always mentioning wiggling your toes on here and whatnot. And I saw a thing on the news the other night. They were talking about the guys over in England that are like the guards, they have those big, like, furry hats and whatever, that because it's like blistering hot over there, like they've actually had some of them like fainting this year because, like the coats and pants they're wearing are like wool and they're heavy, and plus then they have the hat on. And they were talking with one of the guys asking like how they keep from doing that. And, of course, hydration is number one, but the one guy even said he wiggles his toes because it keeps the blood pumping. So, yeah.
I always love hearing that stuff.
Well, he said it's also, because they're not supposed to move and whatnot at times. So, he said you can wiggle your toes and nobody really notices because of the boots that they're in. You don't really move the boot. You're just moving your toes inside the boot. So I thought, that kind of made me laugh. And I thought of you, of course, at that moment. The other's a little more serious, but I think this is a brilliant idea, which was, I forgot what state this was in. I don't have it in front of me. But colleges, on the student IDs, on the back of them, it's got like the suicide prevention hotline number. And I thought that's a really smart move because I know we all have phones and stuff. But it's by handing those out and people, if the kids look at them, I know not everybody's going to look at them and all this kind of stuff, but it at least, it gives an opportunity for a conversation. In that, when you're handed your ID, they could be like, oh, and just so you know, blah, blah, blah's on the back. That conversation can be had that it's there because of, as we've talked on here, like the suicide numbers are alarming over the last few years, and they're just on the rise. And, not to mention, those numbers are not just for, like, if you would potentially harm yourself, they're for any sort of a mental health crisis, or if you're thinking of harming others, or whatever. So I just thought it was cool, a really good idea to put that resource there. It reminds me back of when, like when we were in high school, remember the book covers? We used to get those white book covers from Whitmer that they had ads all over them. And I always thought, it was like, there's opportunities here to put better messages on these things, but, like something like that, even though, don't get me wrong, almost all of us turned them inside out anyway, because like I did it so I could draw all over them. So,
Exactly.
But still, the idea is it's still there, so it's visible in some aspect. And like I said, it gives a potential for a conversation that was not going to be had otherwise. So good on them.
And what else would you? Yeah. What else are you going to put on the back there? That makes a lot of sense. Just put those numbers.
Yep. So good on, like I said, I can't remember what state or schools it was, but good on them for doing that. I think that's a good move. Who knows? Maybe it won't make any difference, but again, it's one of those, it's like, if it saves one life, then it's that much, so.
Exactly. That's all it takes is to save one life.
Yeah. So kudos for that. And yeah. All right. So that's all that kind of stuff I got.
Well, folks, it's that time. If you would like to continue the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me directly at Jen's Crazy Life on Twitter. That's Jen with a G. You can also, if you would like to hear more from me, you can listen to me on Shake the Sheets. ShakeTheSheets.com is our website for that. You can also find us on most of the podcasting platforms. It is a pop culture talk podcast that I do. If you'd like to find Henno, even though he's not with us today, if you want to reach out to him and wish him a happy vacation, then you can reach him on Twitter at Ida Heno, and he's also on Facebook at Heno Heiter. He also is on a podcast, Moving the Needle. That is a awesome podcast. That it's kind of a roundtable type aspect where they talk about movies and different wonderful things. So if you want to hear more from him, definitely check that out.
Yeah, the
and
last
Ryan,
one.
How can I reach you?
I would say the last one of Moving the Needle I listened to, they talked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Quentin Tarantino's like body of work overall, which was a good listen. I can't remember if they've released another one since then because it comes out every other week, and I always in my head I never remember which week it comes out, so I don't know if we're ahead of it or behind it. So, but anyway, go check them out. I'm sorry, did you give the Twitter handle for that?
Just for Heno.
Okay, for Moving the Needle, it's at MTN Pod. If
Perfect,
you want to go
thank
check
you.
that out, yeah. Yeah, definitely give that a listen. It's a good fun podcast. Especially the ones where they shame each other for song choices in movies and whatever. I always enjoyed those. And it's all in fun. It's all done with love. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can also find me on Twitter, or my other podcast on Twitter at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so be careful where you listen to it at. You can also find this show on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. Our Facebook group's at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We are part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net, and the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. Please go to check those out and find some other shows you might dig. Links for both of those are in the show notes also. I feel like there was another link I'm forgetting. I don't. Anyway, we'd appreciate it if you rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. Please share our show with your friends. And, if you feel as though you need help, please reach out. Whether it's, to one of these crisis lines, go seek out therapy. Again, as we mentioned a few weeks ago, it's like, therapy isn't just for people with mental illness. Like really, pretty much anybody could benefit from some therapy at times, just to give you that safe place to just vent, if nothing else. So, don't discount the idea of therapy just because maybe you don't have depression or whatever. It's still a valuable resource. And of course, if you feel as though you may harm yourself or others, definitely, please reach out to someone, a friend, or, a hospital or whatever it is you need to reach out to. Just try not to be alone, and please try not to act on those impulses. And, also, please reach out to your friends, especially if you know they're going out or going through something rough. But also reach out to the ones that always tell you they're fine. Because a lot of times I'm fine is an inadvertent call for help. But, just try to reach out to the people, that you care about. And then, I guess as usual, just try to be nicer to one another. Let's just keep trying to put kindness out there. There's just too much of the other stuff going on right now. So, whenever you can be nice, try to be nice to somebody, and that includes yourself too. Be nice to yourself. And my new thing is remember that sometimes doing nothing is self-care, so you're still doing something. So don't beat yourself up for doing nothing on like a lazy Sunday or something.
Exactly what he just said. With that, folks, go out there, have the best week you can, and don't forget, wiggle those toes.